I had really high expectations for Makoto Shinkai's Weathering with You. Your Name is obviously the highest rated anime film of all time, and it's kind of hard, I feel like, to like live within that shadow. And I think I might have put like an unfair sort of umbrella. Umbrella. That's funny. I didn't even mean to do that. Weathering with You, isn't it funny? Oh man. But maybe that was unfair to sort of put that above this movie because this is not a bad film at all. But like having seen it in theater, I had really high expectations going in, and I don't know if I want to say let down, but it wasn't as mind blowing as I thought it would be. It was not as mind blowing as Your Name was for me, or The Garden of Words. I think it's a little better than a film like 5 centimeters per second. Of course, all of these are by the same director, Makoto Shinkai. If you haven't seen them, please check them out. So I would rank this as like his like third best movie in my opinion. Um, it has all the hallmarks of a great Shinkai movie. There are just there are just a few small sort of like plot points that sort of bothered me and certain things that weren't explained very well. But I mean, it's got really has some of the best characterization that he's ever done. It's got a really nice like resolution and obviously soundtrack, animation, everything looks presentation wise, everything's amazing. It's got like I said, the characterization wise, it's got great actual side characters that you care about in this movie. It's got a very interesting sort of lore and and even like philosophy on environmentalism that they sort of push with this. But overall, I think it was a really good movie. Definitely one of if I highly recommend that you watch this if you can. If you take nothing else from this video, I'm gonna try not to spoil too much of it. If you know nothing about it, it's basically about this guy named this little kid named Hodoka, who is a runaway. He's like a high school freshman age, and he leaves some life on like some island because he says it's like suffocating him. That's all we really know about that. That's kind of what bothers me a little bit is we don't really know anything about him previously. He just says that his life kind of sucked back home. So he goes to live in Tokyo, but the downside is he doesn't have a student ID, he doesn't have any guardian, he doesn't have any parents or uncles or anything, or anywhere to live or sleep or anything. So he's down to like whatever money he was able to sort of smuggle and basically be a homeless bum looking for a job in Tokyo of all places at a very young age. So this obviously is a struggle for him at first. He spends a lot of nights sleeping next to like a trash can, or he's spending all of his money at like very cheap hotels getting fast food. Along the way, he does end up getting a job at a like this underground like a cult magazine, very small like a cult magazine, literally run by like two people. Not a lot of pay, but they give him some lodging and some food. And he, encounters, this cute girl named Hina, who he basically rescues from going down a pretty dark path in terms of her, who's also very young. She says that she's going to be 18 very soon, but she has a lot of responsibilities herself. She looks after her brother and herself, basically alone in their own apartment. So she's basically fighting for those two, and she was going to go down this and work at this prostitution place. Hodoka, being a nice guy that he is, helps her run away from there. And more is unveiled about Hina, we learn that she has this mystical power of the Sunshine Girl. And this is a girl throughout apparently Japanese history that had the power to manipulate the weather. Whether it could be in even like small areas, they could turn rain into sunshine. And it's said that it comes at a cost, but that's not made evidently really clear until later on. But she does this by closing her eyes and praying a little bit, and she's able to do it in a small area for a small amount of time. She will clear the skies, and so they see this as an opportunity for her to finally be making some money. And so for a while they do this for people trying to clean up the skies for their birthday party or their wedding or something, or a sporting event that they're trying to bet money on or something like that. A lot of cool, interesting, I think, aspects to it. I think it's a pretty practical application of like if you could change the weather in a very small area, and if people didn't necessarily freak out about it, which is also something I sort of question because not a lot of people really freak out about it. I don't know if it's because Japanese people are just way calmer about that shit maybe than we would be. I don't know. But they don't seem to really freak out about it that this little girl clapped her hands together and is now stopping the rain. But you do learn that there is sort of a dark cost to this ability. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's basically a really interesting sort of romance type of story between this runaway kid and this mystical powered girl who have found each other in this huge city, coming from similar circumstances, brought together by this insane premise of weather changing superpower. And it's got a whole bunch of interesting side characters. Like the girl's brother is really cool. The people that run the magazine are also very interesting. But it's a really good love story. All of the scenes are animated incredibly well. There's a lot of obviously sky shots. The backgrounds in this are amazing. The character designs are all really good. All of the water effects are godly. Like all of the rain hitting the water. If you've seen a Makoto Shinkai film in the past, you know that this guy loves weather shots. He loves having interesting backgrounds. Everything about the sky. He is like a master at making like desktop backgrounds. I swear to God, because you could make a desktop background out of 30 different shots in this film. Maybe not as many as in Garden of Words, in my opinion, but this film was still really, really, really visually stunning. I saw it in its English dub. It was really well done. The Radwimps soundtrack, the same people that did the music, I believe, in Your Name, they did a very, very good job. The story all goes into this really, really cool point toward the end of the film. Doesn't really leave you hanging. You're pretty satisfied by the end of it for the most part. There are some questions that I sort of wanted answered with some of the characters. There's this mini sort of time gap, and we don't necessarily know what certain characters were doing within that time gap. That's all I'll kind of say about that. And I would just like to have known more. But maybe that's not necessarily important for everybody. I totally get that. It has an interesting viewpoint on environmentalism, in my opinion, where it's certainly, you hear that word, but it's a lot more laid back than you would think. It seems like Shinkai's sort of point with this, and the thing that they try to hit you over the head with in the movie, hit you over the head with is probably a little too strong. What they're trying to showcase to you in the movie is that we should acknowledge what we're doing, but what we do isn't necessarily, we're still very small in this world. It's not necessarily going to be doing a lot of change. We should be living our lives. We should be trying to be happy. And it's, I think, another aspect of a more sort of laid back attitude. I believe I might be wrong about this. I think it's shogunai is the Japanese expression for it can't be helped. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. But it seems like that's also sort of wrapped into this with, it's not necessarily giving up on a fight. It's understanding that sometimes I don't think the fight is necessarily worth the effort and the stress factor of it versus realizing what you have and what really matters to you, and being comfortable with what matters to you and protecting what matters to you, and not really worrying about what everybody else thinks. So I thought that was really cool. You know, excuse me. But again, this movie is really really solid. If I had any nitpicks, it would just be like some stuff being omitted from the main Hodoka, the main character's like backstory. We don't really get to know much about his life back home or anything. And like I said, there's some stuff in the characters going on in the characters' lives in the background that I would have liked more clarity on towards the end of the film. But I really, really, really love this movie. I love almost every Makoto Shinkai movie. He's definitely my favorite director of all time. I think you'd be doing yourself a very big disservice by not seeing this film. If you have even just seen like Your Name, I think you're also going to be a big fan of this. And if you've never seen a Shinkai movie, I don't think this would be necessarily the worst one to start with, but I would definitely say to please check out his other ones. Stuff like 5 centimeters per second, Your Name, Garden of Words. But if you can see this in theater, I don't know if it's still in any theaters in the United States at the time of this recording. Please do it if you can. And if not, please, if you're gonna watch this, please make sure you're watching it in some high quality, because this is certainly an amazing movie that I don't think anybody really should miss. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Miasma, and I'll see you next time.